Dr. Elena Rodriguez spent her career at CERN studying the fundamental nature of reality, but her final research suggested that consciousness doesn't just observe the universe, it creates it. Rodriguez had dedicated 8 years to developing what she termed observer theory, a mathematical framework that extended far beyond the standard quantum mechanical observer effect. While conventional physics acknowledges that observation can influence quantum systems, Rodriguez's work indicated something far more radical. Her calculations demonstrated that consciousness doesn't merely collapse quantum wave functions. It generates the basic structures of space, time, matter, and energy through the very act of observation. The breakthrough that sealed her fate came from analyzing quantum measurement data in unprecedented ways. Rodriguez discovered tiny but statistically significant variations in universal constants like the speed of light and gravitational strength, variations that correlated directly with the expectations and beliefs of whoever was conducting the measurements. The implications were staggering. If consciousness actively creates reality through observation, then objective physical truth doesn't exist independently of conscious minds. Her preliminary findings, leaked by a colleague after her disappearance, showed that groups of observers with shared beliefs could measurably alter local physics. When teams of physicists conducted identical experiments while holding different theoretical assumptions, they obtained results that matched their expectations rather than objective physical laws. The universe, it seemed, was far more malleable than anyone had dared to imagine. Rodriguez's final experiment, conducted the day before she vanished, involved isolating quantum systems from all conscious observation and measuring their behavior. According to her notes, quantum systems left completely unobserved didn't just remain in superposition. They ceased to exist entirely until consciousness returned to observe them. Reality, she had discovered, required conscious participation to maintain its existence. On March 15, 2019, Rodriguez entered Laboratory 7 at CERN and never emerged. Security footage shows her entering but never leaving. Her keycard was never used to exit the building, and the laboratory was found locked from the inside with no one present. Within hours of her disappearance, all of her research data was permanently deleted from CERN servers. Officials claimed she had taken an unscheduled leave of absence, but the evidence suggested something far more sinister. Rodriguez's work proved that humans are not passive observers of reality, but active creators of everything we experience as physical existence. Her disappearance silenced research that would have fundamentally transformed our understanding of consciousness, reality, and human potential. The second case takes us to Harvard University, where a researcher had solved one of humanity's greatest challenges, only to vanish on the eve of her triumph. Dr. Sarah Chen had cracked the genetic code of human aging and developed a technique to stop it permanently when she disappeared from her laboratory on September 3, 2020. Chen's breakthrough centered on telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes that shorten with age, but her discovery went far beyond simply extending these cellular timekeepers. She had identified what she called the aging master switch, a previously unknown genetic regulatory system that controlled the entire aging process at the cellular level. Her experiments on laboratory mice produced results that defied biological logic. Elderly mice treated with Chen's gene therapy protocol didn't just live longer. They physically reversed their aging process. 24-month-old mice, equivalent to 80-year-old humans, became physiologically identical to 3-month-old mice within 6 weeks of treatment. The therapy worked by reactivating dormant genetic programs that exist in all human DNA but are switched off during development. Chen discovered that aging isn't inevitable biological decay. It's a programmed process that can be reversed by reactivating the genetic instructions for cellular renewal and repair. Her human trials, conducted in secret due to regulatory restrictions, showed even more dramatic results. Volunteer subjects experienced complete reversal of age-related cellular damage. 70-year-old participants developed the cellular structure, organ function, and physical capabilities of 25-year-olds within months of treatment. Chen's final laboratory notes describe the mechanism in detail. The therapy essentially reprogrammed human cells to operate in renewal mode rather than aging mode, restoring the unlimited, replicative potential that cells possess during youth. Death from old age, she had proven, was optional. The night before her scheduled press conference to announce the discovery, Chen sent an encrypted message to her research partner stating she had received unofficial warnings about releasing her findings. Security cameras show her arriving at the laboratory that evening, but she was never seen leaving. Harvard University claims Chen resigned to pursue private research, but her laboratory was sealed immediately after her disappearance, and all of her research materials were removed by unidentified federal agents. The aging reversal therapy that could have made human mortality a choice rather than an inevitability vanished along with its creator, leaving humanity trapped in biological limitations that had apparently been solved. Our third case involves a neuroscientist at Stanford University who discovered that human consciousness could be artificially enhanced to superhuman levels. Dr. Marcus Webb's research proved that targeted electromagnetic stimulation could unlock mental capabilities that make humans essentially telepathic, but his findings were too dangerous to be allowed into the world. Webb began his research by studying savant syndrome, the rare condition where brain injury or disease suddenly grants individuals extraordinary abilities. He discovered that savant capabilities weren't caused by brain damage, but by altered brainwave patterns that synchronize different regions of the brain in ways that don't occur naturally. Using precision electromagnetic stimulation, Webb could temporarily recreate these brainwave patterns in normal subjects. Volunteers exposed to his consciousness enhancement protocol developed photographic memory, mathematical savant abilities, and most remarkably, to sense other people's thoughts and emotions with startling accuracy. His breakthrough came from mapping the exact frequencies that produce specific mental enhancements. Webb found that consciousness operates on precise electromagnetic wavelengths, and by tuning these frequencies artificially, he could boost cognitive function far beyond normal human limits. Test subjects exposed to Webb's enhancement protocol scored 300% higher on intelligence tests, solved complex mathematical problems instantly, and demonstrated abilities that suggested direct mind-to-mind communication. Brain scans showed connectivity between regions that are normally isolated, creating a superbrain configuration that unlocked latent human potential. The implications terrified authorities. Webb's technology could create individuals with intellectual capabilities that would make them impossible to control or manipulate. Enhanced humans would be able to see through propaganda, detect deception instantly, and possibly read the thoughts of government officials and corporate executives. Webb's final research notes described how his consciousness enhancement technology could be scaled up to affect large populations simultaneously. Radio towers and cell phone networks could be modified to broadcast the enhancement frequencies, potentially upgrading human consciousness on a global scale. 2 days before his planned publication, Webb received visits from representatives of major pharmaceutical companies offering to buy his research. When he refused, federal agents arrived with national security warrants to confiscate his equipment. Webb was never seen after that evening. Stanford University maintains that Webb relocated to pursue commercial applications of his research, but his laboratory was gutted and all traces of his consciousness enhancement technology were destroyed. His discovery that human consciousness can be artificially evolved to superhuman levels disappeared, along with the scientist who proved it was possible. These 3 cases establish a pattern that will become increasingly clear as we examine the remaining 7 disappearances. Scientists who discover fundamental truths about consciousness, human potential, or the nature of reality itself don't simply lose funding or face academic criticism. They vanish entirely, along with all evidence of their revolutionary work. The suppression is systematic, coordinated, and complete. It suggests that certain types of knowledge are considered too dangerous for humanity to possess, and that powerful forces will go to extraordinary lengths to ensure these discoveries never see the light of day. The fourth case brings us to Tokyo University, where a physicist had achieved what generations of scientists thought impossible. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was weeks away from announcing the discovery of controllable anti-gravity technology when she vanished from her laboratory on January 8, 2021. Her research had successfully demonstrated gravitational manipulation using electromagnetic fields, a breakthrough that would have revolutionized transportation, energy production, and space exploration forever. Tanaka's work built on theoretical physics, suggesting that gravity and electromagnetism are more closely connected than Einstein's equations revealed. She discovered that specific electromagnetic field configurations could create zones where gravitational effects were reduced, amplified, or even completely reversed. Her laboratory had become a testing ground for physics that shouldn't have been possible. Colleagues who witnessed her demonstrations described phenomena that defied everything they understood about the fundamental forces of nature. Tanaka could make objects hover weightlessly above her experimental apparatus, create localized zones where gravity pulled upward instead of down, and even generate artificial gravitational fields that attracted objects regardless of their mass or composition. The technology worked by manipulating what Tanaka called gravitational field lines, invisible structures in space-time that determine how mass curves space around itself. Her electromagnetic generators could grab and redirect these field lines, essentially allowing her to edit the gravitational environment within her laboratory like a cosmic engineer. Independent verification by other physicists confirmed that Tanaka's anti-gravity effects were genuine and measurable. Objects placed within her experimental field lost detectable weight, and precision instruments detected changes in local gravitational acceleration that violated the principles of general relativity. The implications were staggering beyond comprehension. Anti-gravity technology would make space travel as simple as driving a car, eliminate the need for fossil fuels entirely, and provide unlimited clean energy by harnessing gravitational potential. The discovery would transform human civilization overnight, making current transportation systems as obsolete as horse-drawn carriages. Tanaka's research notes, smuggled out by a graduate student before her laboratory was sealed, described plans for scaling up the technology to practical applications. She had designed gravitational manipulation systems that could lift entire buildings, propel spacecraft at incredible speeds, and even create artificial gravity for space stations and lunar colonies. 3 days before her scheduled presentation to the International Physics Consortium, Tanaka received an unscheduled visit from officials claiming to represent international energy interests. Security footage shows them entering her laboratory, but the cameras mysteriously malfunctioned for several hours afterward. When the footage resumed, Tanaka was gone, and her anti-gravity apparatus had been completely dismantled. Tokyo University claims she accepted a position with a classified government research program, but no official records of such a program exist anywhere. Her gravitational manipulation technology, which could have freed humanity from the constraints of gravity itself, vanished along with its creator. Our fifth case takes us to Johns Hopkins University, where a neuroscientist had proven that telepathy isn't paranormal fiction, but a natural human waiting to be activated. Dr. Robert Hayes demonstrated that the human brain contains dormant circuits for direct mind-to-mind communication, but his research disappeared along with him on May 22, 2019. Hayes discovered that human brains naturally emit weak electromagnetic signals containing encoded information about thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences. These neural broadcasts are usually too faint to be detected by other brains, but Hayes developed amplification technology that could boost the signals to detectable levels with remarkable precision. His experiments involved pairs of volunteers in separate electromagnetically shielded rooms. When one subject viewed images or heard sounds, Hayes's amplification system could transmit their neural signals to the second subject, who would then experience the same sensory information without any direct sensory input. The accuracy was extraordinary and undeniable. Subjects could transmit not just simple images, but complex thoughts, emotional states, and even specific memories between their minds. The receiving subjects described experiencing transmitted thoughts as if they were their own, creating a direct neural connection between separate consciousnesses that operated with scientific reliability. Hayes's breakthrough came from mapping the specific brainwave frequencies that carry different types of mental information. Thoughts operate on different electromagnetic wavelengths than emotions, which operate on different frequencies than sensory experiences. By isolating and amplifying these specific frequencies, Hayes could create controllable telepathic communication between any two human minds. The technology worked bidirectionally with terrifying implications. Not only could thoughts be transmitted between minds, but Hayes's system could also read thoughts by detecting and decoding the electromagnetic signals naturally produced by neural activity. His equipment could essentially eavesdrop on human consciousness itself without the subject's knowledge or consent. Government agencies took immediate interest when they realized the implications for intelligence gathering and interrogation. The ability to read thoughts directly would revolutionize espionage, criminal investigation, and military intelligence operations. No secret would be safe from technology that could access consciousness itself. Hayes's final research notes describe plans for miniaturizing the technology into portable devices that could read thoughts from a distance without detection. The equipment could be disguised as everyday electronics, creating invisible mind-reading capabilities for surveillance applications that would make privacy a thing of the past. The day before his planned publication, Hayes confided to colleagues that he was having second thoughts about releasing the technology. He worried that telepathic capabilities could be weaponized for mind control or used to violate mental privacy on a global scale. His concerns proved prophetic. Hayes was last seen leaving his laboratory on the evening of May 21st. Security cameras showed him exiting the building normally, but he never arrived home and hasn't been seen since. All of his telepathy research was removed from university servers within 24 hours of his disappearance. The sixth case involves a researcher at MIT whose work on temporal mechanics had reached the point of practical application. Dr. Lisa Morrison had developed a working theory of time travel based on quantum consciousness and was preparing to test it when she vanished from her laboratory on August 14, 2020. Her research suggested that consciousness could be projected backward through time to influence past events. Morrison's breakthrough came from studying quantum eraser experiments that showed future measurements could retroactively change past quantum states. She realized that if quantum information could travel backward through time, then larger systems, including human consciousness, might be able to do the same under carefully controlled conditions. Her theory involved creating temporal resonance fields using quantum entanglement and electromagnetic manipulation. These fields would allow consciousness to establish communication channels with past versions of itself, creating a form of time travel that operated through information transfer rather than physical displacement. Laboratory demonstrations witnessed by colleagues showed impossible phenomena that challenged causality itself. Morrison could influence random number generators retroactively by focusing her intention on specific outcomes in the present. Computer records would change to reflect her current thoughts, as if information was flowing backward through time to alter historical data. The implications were terrifying for anyone with secrets to protect. If consciousness could influence the past, then historical records could be rewritten retroactively. Evidence could be destroyed before it was ever created, and past events could be modified to change present outcomes. The entire concept of fixed history would become meaningless. Morrison's research notes described how temporal consciousness projection could be used to prevent disasters, cure diseases before they developed, and even prevent conflicts by influencing the thoughts of historical figures. She was essentially developing technology that would allow humanity to edit its own timeline like a cosmic word processor. Her experiments grew increasingly ambitious and dangerous. Morrison claimed she had successfully sent warnings to her past self, creating temporal loops where she received information about future events before they occurred. Her laboratory notebooks contained predictions about stock market movements and political events that proved accurate with disturbing precision. The day before her planned demonstration to military officials, Morrison told colleagues she had made contact with future versions of herself who warned that temporal technology would be weaponized by governments to rewrite history according to their preferences. She expressed fears that her discovery would be used to create alternate timelines where democratic governments never existed. Morrison's laboratory was found empty the following morning with all equipment removed and no trace of her temporal research apparatus. MIT officials claim she relocated to work on classified projects, but security footage shows her laboratory being cleared by unidentified personnel in the middle of the night. Her time travel research, which could have given humanity the power to edit history itself, disappeared along with the scientist who discovered that the future can indeed change the past. The implications of her work were so profound that even she feared what might happen if it fell into the wrong hands. These 6 cases reveal a disturbing pattern of suppression that targets specific types of revolutionary discovery. Scientists who prove that consciousness creates reality, who develop life extension technology, who unlock superhuman mental abilities, or who access the fundamental forces of physics don't simply face academic skepticism. They disappear entirely from the world, along with all traces of their groundbreaking work. The systematic nature of these disappearances suggests coordination at the highest levels of power. These aren't random accidents or coincidental career changes. They represent a deliberate effort to control human knowledge and prevent certain discoveries from transforming civilization. But the story doesn't end here. 4 more cases await examination, each revealing additional layers of suppression that protect secrets too dangerous for public consumption. The 7th case takes us to the University of California, where a geneticist had unlocked the hidden programming language embedded within human DNA itself. Dr. Kevin Park had decoded the mysterious non-coding regions that make up 98% of our genetic material, discovering they contain sophisticated software that controls human behavior, intelligence, and allegedly paranormal abilities. His vanishing on October 5, 2019, came just days before he planned to publish findings that would have revealed humanity's true genetic potential. Park's revolutionary discovery began with analyzing what scientists had dismissively labeled junk DNA. These vast genetic regions that don't code for proteins had been written off as evolutionary debris, meaningless sequences accumulated over millions of years. But Park found complex patterns hidden within this genetic material that resembled computer programming languages more than random biological noise. Using advanced pattern recognition algorithms that he developed specifically for genetic analysis, Park decoded what he termed genetic software embedded within non-coding DNA. These genetic programs appeared to control everything from personality traits and cognitive abilities to capabilities that conventional science insists don't exist, like intuitive pattern recognition and electromagnetic sensitivity. His breakthrough came from discovering that this genetic software could be rewritten using targeted gene therapy techniques. Park successfully modified the non-coding DNA of laboratory volunteers, producing dramatic enhancements in their intellectual capabilities, emotional stability, and sensory perception abilities that exceeded normal human parameters by extraordinary margins. Test subjects who received Park's genetic modifications showed intelligence increases of 40 to 60 points on standardized tests, developed perfect memory recall, and displayed enhanced pattern recognition abilities that bordered on precognition. Brain scans revealed new neural pathways forming rapidly after genetic modification, as if the enhanced DNA was rebuilding their brains for optimal performance. Most remarkably, some subjects developed abilities that seemed to violate known physics entirely. Enhanced individuals could sense electromagnetic fields with their bare hands, accurately predict supposedly random events, and even influence electronic devices through mental intention alone. Park's genetic modifications had apparently unlocked latent human capabilities that mainstream science refused to acknowledge existed. The implications were revolutionary beyond anything previously imagined. If human potential was limited only by genetic software restrictions, then anyone could be enhanced to genius-level intelligence, perfect health, and extraordinary sensory abilities through simple genetic reprogramming. Park's discovery suggested that normal human limitations were artificial constraints that evolution had imposed but technology could remove. His research notes describe plans for developing genetic enhancement protocols that could be administered like vaccines, upgrading human capabilities on a global scale. Enhanced humans would possess intelligence levels that would make current geniuses seem cognitively impaired by comparison, fundamentally altering the balance of power in human civilization. Government agencies took immediate interest when they realized that Park's genetic enhancement could create super soldiers with enhanced physical and mental capabilities, far exceeding anything achieved through conventional training. Intelligence services also recognized that genetically enhanced individuals would be impossible to deceive or manipulate using traditional psychological techniques. Park's final laboratory entries described mounting pressure from military contractors and pharmaceutical companies, demanding exclusive access to his genetic enhancement technology. He expressed growing concern that genetic upgrades would be restricted to elite groups, creating a permanent genetic caste system where enhanced humans ruled over unmodified populations like biological aristocracy. Security footage shows Park working alone in his laboratory on the evening of October 4th, but he was never seen leaving the building despite continuous surveillance. University officials claimed he accepted a lucrative position with a private biotechnology company, but all of his genetic enhancement research was removed from university databases within hours of his disappearance. The eighth case brings us to Cambridge University, where a quantum physicist had successfully opened doorways to parallel dimensions and was documenting alternate versions of Earth when he vanished on December 19, 2020. Dr. Ahmed Hassan's research proved that multiple realities exist simultaneously and developed practical technology to access them directly. But his disappearance coincided with the immediate classification of all his dimensional research. Hassan's work began with studying quantum many-worlds theory, which suggests that every quantum measurement creates alternate realities where different outcomes occur. Most physicists treated this as abstract mathematical speculation, but Hassan developed what he called dimensional resonance technology that could detect and eventually access these parallel universes directly. His breakthrough involved creating controlled quantum measurement cascades that opened microscopic doorways between dimensions. Hassan could observe alternate versions of his laboratory where different experimental outcomes had occurred, providing direct visual proof that parallel realities exist alongside our own in an infinite multiverse of possibilities. The technology evolved at breathtaking speed under Hassan's guidance. His dimensional gateways grew from microscopic apertures to openings large enough to pass small objects between realities. He began retrieving samples from alternate dimensions, including materials with impossible properties and documents describing historical events that differed dramatically from our timeline. Colleagues witnessed Hassan receiving messages from alternate versions of himself, working on identical research in parallel dimensions. The alternate Hassans had made similar breakthroughs and were sharing information across dimensional boundaries, creating a collaborative research network that spanned multiple realities and accelerated discoveries beyond anything possible in a single universe. Hassan's most disturbing discovery was that some parallel Earths had experienced catastrophic events that hadn't occurred in our reality. He documented dimensions where nuclear war had devastated civilization, where engineered plagues had eliminated most of humanity, and where environmental collapse had made the planet uninhabitable for complex life. But he also found dimensions where human civilization had achieved incredible advances that made our technology seem primitive by comparison. Hassan retrieved samples from realities where diseases had been completely eliminated, where unlimited clean energy had been mastered through exotic physics, and where humans had developed superhuman cognitive abilities through advanced genetic engineering. The implications were staggering beyond human comprehension. If technology and knowledge could be transferred between dimensions, humanity could gain access to solutions for every conceivable problem by studying more advanced parallel civilizations. Dimensional engineering could provide unlimited resources and knowledge from infinite alternate realities. Hassan's final research notes describe plans for creating permanent dimensional gateways that would allow regular travel between parallel Earths. He had identified specific dimensions where more advanced versions of humanity had solved climate change, eliminated poverty and disease, and even discovered faster-than-light travel through space-time manipulation. Government agencies realized that dimensional technology could provide access to unlimited resources, advanced weapons systems, and strategic intelligence from parallel versions of enemy nations. The technology represented the ultimate military and economic advantage, offering the ability to acquire solutions from more successful alternate realities. Hassan was last seen in his laboratory on December 18th, working on expanding his largest dimensional gateway to human-sized proportions. Security cameras recorded strange electromagnetic disturbances around his equipment, followed by a brilliant flash that temporarily blinded the recording systems and overloaded nearby electronics. When the footage cleared, Hassan was gone, and his dimensional gateway apparatus had been completely destroyed by what appeared to be a controlled demolition. Cambridge University maintains that Hassan relocated to classified government research, but his laboratory showed clear signs of professional destruction designed to eliminate all traces of breakthrough technology. The ninth case involves a researcher at Stanford University who had proven that human consciousness survives bodily death and developed technology to communicate with the deceased. Dr. Maria Santos disappeared from her laboratory on July 31st, 2021, after demonstrating that consciousness exists independently of the brain and continues to function after clinical death. Santos's breakthrough came from studying near-death experiences using advanced brain monitoring technology that could detect electromagnetic activity at previously unmeasurable levels. She discovered that consciousness doesn't reside within the brain tissue, but uses it as a communication interface, similar to how radio signals use receivers but exist independently of the radio hardware. Her experiments involved monitoring brain activity in patients during cardiac arrest and clinical death using specialized detection equipment. Santos found that consciousness-related electromagnetic activity continued even after all brain functions ceased, suggesting that the mind operates through mechanisms that don't depend on living neural tissue. Using electromagnetic field modulation techniques, Santos developed communication protocols that allowed limited interaction with consciousness entities after death. Her devices could send simple messages to deceased subjects and receive coherent responses that demonstrated persistent memory, personality, and cognitive function beyond biological death. The implications revolutionized fundamental assumptions about human existence. If consciousness survives death, then human life extends far beyond biological limitations into realms that conventional science had never imagined possible. Santos's research suggested that death is merely a transition to a different mode of existence rather than the termination of consciousness. Her later experiments involved increasingly complex communication with deceased subjects who provided detailed information about their post-death experiences. The deceased described existing in alternate dimensional spaces where thought creates reality directly and where consciousness can travel instantly across vast distances without physical constraints. Santos's final research notes described plans for developing technology that could allow regular communication between living and deceased consciousness entities. She envisioned a future where death wouldn't separate families and where humanity could access the accumulated knowledge of all deceased humans throughout history. Her laboratory contained detailed recordings of conversations with deceased scientists who described advanced technologies and scientific discoveries they had made while existing in post-death consciousness states. The deceased claimed to have access to knowledge and capabilities far beyond what's possible in biological form. Government agencies and religious organizations took immediate interest in Santos's research when they realized its implications for social control. Proof of consciousness survival would fundamentally alter human behavior, belief systems, and the entire structure of civilization, built around the assumption that death represents final termination. Santos was scheduled to present her findings to an international consortium of neuroscientists when she vanished from her laboratory without explanation. Stanford University claims she took an extended sabbatical for personal reasons, but all of her consciousness survival research was immediately classified and removed from university systems. The 10th and final case brings us to MIT, where a quantum theorist had discovered that physical reality operates like a computer simulation and developed methods to edit its programming code. Dr. James Wright vanished from his laboratory on February 14, 2022, after proving that the universe is essentially software running on a cosmic computer system. Wright's breakthrough came from studying quantum mechanics and computational theory simultaneously. He noticed that quantum behavior closely resembled how computer programs handle information processing, with quantum superposition functioning like simultaneous data calculations and wave function collapse resembling program execution and output. His experiments involved creating quantum systems that could access what he called reality source code, the fundamental information structures that define physical laws and constants. Wright discovered that by manipulating quantum information in specific ways, he could temporarily alter local physics within his laboratory environment. Colleagues witnessed impossible demonstrations where Wright could change the speed of light, alter gravitational acceleration, and even modify the fundamental constants that govern atomic structure and chemical bonding. His laboratory became a testing ground for edited physics, where normal rules were suspended and replaced with custom physical laws. Wright's most significant discovery was that consciousness appears to have administrative privileges in reality's programming system. Human minds could access and modify the universe's source code through directed quantum meditation techniques that Wright developed experimentation. His technology combined through years of painstaking research and quantum computing with consciousness-machine interfaces, allowing human operators to directly edit physical reality by thinking specific thoughts while connected to his quantum programming system. Users could modify local physics simply by imagining different physical laws and uploading their intentions to the universal operating system. Government agencies immediately classified Wright's research when they realized that reality programming technology could make conventional military forces completely obsolete. Nations with access to physics editing capabilities could simply rewrite the laws of physics to make enemy weapons non-functional or edit hostile countries out of existence entirely. Wright's final research notes describe plans for creating user-friendly reality programming interfaces that would allow anyone to modify local physics through simple mental commands. He envisioned a future where humans could customize their physical environment by editing reality source code like a cosmic word processor. The day before his scheduled presentation to Pentagon officials, Wright confided to colleagues that he was reconsidering releasing the technology. He worried that reality programming capabilities would destabilize civilization by giving individuals godlike power to reshape existence according to their personal preferences and desires. Wright was last seen in his laboratory on February 13th, apparently preparing to demonstrate his most advanced reality programming system. Security cameras recorded strange visual distortions around his equipment, followed by electromagnetic interference that corrupted all surveillance footage for several hours. When the systems resumed normal operation, Wright had vanished and his reality programming laboratory had been completely sanitized. MIT officials claimed he was recruited for classified government research, but his disappearance marked the end of all academic investigation into the programmable nature of physical reality. These 10 cases reveal a pattern of suppression so systematic and comprehensive that it can only represent coordinated action at the highest levels of power. Scientists who discover fundamental truths about consciousness, reality, human potential, or the nature of existence itself don't simply face academic skepticism or funding cuts. They disappear entirely from the world, along with all evidence of their revolutionary discoveries. What unites these 10 disappearances isn't coincidence or academic controversy. It's evidence of systematic suppression that targets specific types of knowledge deemed too dangerous for human civilization. From consciousness manipulation and genetic enhancement to dimensional travel and reality programming, each discovery represented a fundamental threat to the established order that controls our world. The pattern is undeniable and terrifying. Brilliant minds who prove that consciousness creates reality, who develop technologies to eliminate aging and death, who unlock superhuman mental abilities, or who access the fundamental programming of existence itself, don't face mere professional setbacks. They vanish entirely, erased along with their revolutionary work that could have transformed humanity forever. Perhaps most disturbing is what these cases reveal about the true nature of human potential. If these scientists actually achieved the breakthroughs their research suggested, then we possess capabilities far beyond what we've been told. We might naturally harbour telepathic abilities, genetic programs for extraordinary intelligence, and consciousness that transcends physical death. We might inhabit a malleable reality where physics can be rewritten and time itself can be edited. The greatest tragedy isn't that these discoveries were lost, it's that they were deliberately hidden, ensuring that human advancement remains artificially constrained, while solutions to our greatest challenges gather dust in classified vaults. The scientists who dared to reveal these truths paid the ultimate price, sacrificing their existence to glimpse what humanity could become if certain knowledge were allowed to flourish. These 10 missing scientists prove that reality is far stranger and more malleable than we've been permitted to know. Their disappearances stand as testament to the possibility that we inhabit a world of infinite potential, carefully limited by forces that prefer humanity remain ignorant of its true capabilities.